everyone, welcome back to Energy Toning with Liz. Today I have another chat to present to you that I had with medical Qigong practitioner Donna Becker, who shares her experiences with the Qigong form Pangu Shen Gong and the different ways she feels into energy within herself and in her clients. And she covers in detail how she identifies energy blockages and how she can feel into people's timelines and discover when they first experienced an emotional trauma or event that resulted in a distortion of the person's energy flow. So enjoy, and if this video resonates with you, please leave a comment and click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more videos about energy work and Qigong. I guess the first thing I want to know is, how did you come across Pangu Shen Gong?
Let's see. I was just a brief background is I was a holistic wellness consultant and a nutritionist. And then I got involved in Nest Health through the teacher that I was. So Nest Health is like another type of bioenergetic study of the energy system of living things with the intention to fix what is not correct for our best functioning, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met a man named Keith Coley. Have you interviewed him yet?
No, not yet, but yeah, I want to. Yeah, so it sounds, so far our paths are similar because I came through Nest Health and met Keith.
Yeah. And he's a very convincing man with a huge passion. And honestly, I was thinking about it in preparation for this conversation with you. He had a group of students that he taught that met once a week, and they did one round and they just talked about how it's going.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I would still have been doing it if it weren't for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because people talked about what they felt. Just like you're making this video, I think it's great because you're introduced to it by someone who's passionate about it. But if you're not experiencing what they describe, how do you hang in there?
Yeah, because it's so simple and it seems like, unbelievable in one way that it can get results. So you do have to have that level of faith, especially if you're not feeling the energy for months and months. And what do you do,
Right. And so I think of like all this different, not just the Pangu Qigong, but what I've done with it. It's like where magic meets science. Right? It's hard to tease the two apart. But I do remember people would talk about sensations, and so the actual Pangu Qigong moving form is in 3 parts, right? I would feel a slightest little tingle in my hand, maybe at the 3rd part of a 22-minute repetitive exercise. And if you do not have a community of people like how I met you and how we will sometimes practice together, not so easily because
time zone.
I was looking at a globe the other day. My goodness, you're far.
Yep, it is a long way.
I was almost going to take a picture of this huge globe in the park to send you. But I felt it was unnecessary. But so without having that connection and other people and hearing their stories and people sharing their stories to help motivate, I'll give you one example of this because anyway, my point is I would have probably not continued because it was very difficult. I would try to do 1 form a day and my mind would wander to all the things that I need to do that I'm not doing right now. But I have one really good friend that I know really needed it. And she was also sometimes a client, but someone I've known for many years. She some terrible things happened in her life. There are some definite like personal tragedies. And I said, listen, a lot of people are counting on you. I really want to try again. Like she had already taken the class, so I just needed to get her going. She'd gone through, what she needs to do in order to be able to cultivate life force energy. She sends me a message later. She goes, it took you 2 years. She says, but my goodness, I feel a difference. I can't believe how different I feel. And, she named some things that were like traditionally very difficult for her, like when there's a full moon, she would be very emotional. She says it's really much easier now. Like she's seeing that.
Interesting. So she said it took her 2 years to get that shift happening. Is that?
It took me 2 years to convince her.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I listened to Keith for years. He would get on his Facebook Lives and talk about Pangu Shen-Gong, and I was already practicing Qigong. So I'm thinking there can't be one form can't be better than another. Like, so I wasn't convinced. Yeah.
I hear that all the time, that I already do Qigong. It's like, I understand this is different. They're all a little different. There's another person that I worked with for over a year, and she finally learned it, and she started doing it, and she was doing 2 forms a day. And then she said to me, is it possible that if I just think about the words that we use with the Qigong when I'm overwhelmed, I am calm? And I said, yes, that is why I have been trying to get you to do this.
That's great. She came to her own realization.
She had some other unwanted experiences too. In that she was doing 2 forms a day, and she says, could I be detoxing? Like she spent a day where she was definitely, I said, yeah, like maybe back off. It's unusual. I've never had that happen before, but maybe you don't need to do 2 forms a day.
And
but I thought that was very interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely. And so then did she go back to one form and then?
I don't know. I feel I don't always know the details of the people's practice, because I don't want them to feel like, we encourage them. This is what I tell people: do at least one a day. But if you need healing, do more. And if you need more healing, increase it until you don't see a change. Because the amount that we need is proportional to what we need in the way of change, right? And then I always try to set the expectation that for people that have a chronic physical health condition, it will take more, for sure, it will take more than once or twice a day. Right. Yeah. So I when I teach it, I hope that I plant that seed. Right. And so they'll adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Because I don't live with them. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't know. Right.
Yeah. So just going back to when you first learned it, so you obviously learned it through Keith, and so you were saying that you were only just starting to feel the energy by the end of the 3rd segment. How long did it take before you were feeling more consistent energy throughout the whole form?
For some time, he had different practitioners helping him with a healthcare system. And we were requested to do 2 hours a day. And what I noticed, I don't exactly know the answer to your question, but what I did notice is that once I started committing to 1 hour at a time, my mind wasn't wandering anymore, and I was sinking into the energy of it. And then I also studied with him, besides learning other tools for what to do with the energy. And so I was playing or, building these skills daily of working with my energy and other people's energy, not just doing the Qigong, the Pangu Qigong moving form, or Shen Gong, I guess. So I feel like when I started really, increasing it to 2 hours a day and doing like a full hour
Mm.
and
Yeah.
then 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
in one, together.
So 2 hours
And
back to back, or 1 hour night, morning, 1 hour in the evening?
I just had to get it in. So if I didn't do
Mhm.
it early in the morning, get it in
It wouldn't happen.
back to back.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and Linda have got a good thing going there between the two of you. Like you share that.
It's worked out really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's interesting that you say it wasn't until you did an hour that you start to really sink into it. And that was my experience too, because I learned it from Keith in 2020 or 2021. And yet I was resistant to doing more than 20 minutes at first, because even though I felt the energy straight away, the very first time I did it, I'm like, whoa, I'm feeling heat waves. Like, it was really instant for me. So I knew it was doing something, but at the same time, I still had in my mind, oh, what about all the yoga and the hardcore Pilates and the HIIT exercises and, all the things that I used to do, like, that I felt I needed to do all the time to feel normal. And then gradually this Qigong sort of started taking over that. And I realized I don't have to work as hard as I was.
It's very hard to fit in the physical exercise.
mm. When you're doing that much Qigong, yes, it is. And that is, I'm still trying to find that balance between,
Sure.
this Qigong and work and parenting and all of that. But what I do notice is that having that foundation of the Pangu Shen Gong makes any other exercise do much more effective and quick, and I'm more resilient. I've got more energy for it. So it all combines really well. But yeah, so what happened when you started doing 2 hours a day? What was the difference then?
Okay, so I don't have the exact points that things change, but I started studying with Keith. So I was using the Qigong form, not just so when we learn it, we're learning it, we want to cultivate energy for ourselves. And what I tell my clients when I'm trying to get them to learn it, I say, imagine if you had a backpack full of life force there for when you needed it, when life throws surprises in your path, right? If you don't need it, it's there. It's like you're banking it, but it's always there to draw on for healing and resilience is how I explain it. So I did that, but then I was also studying with Keith. So learning how to use that life force energy that I'm cultivating to now connect with, within my own energy system to see where energy is stuck. So the thing is, energy should never be stuck. It should always be flowing. And Chinese medicine really teaches about energy pathways, and one pathway flows into another. One organ communicates with another through the energy. Every cell communicates. So I learned how to feel into my own energy, but then I also learned how to feel into clients' energy and see where energy is stuck. And so it's almost like thinking of the energy system, and what it can do for us is the quantity, like how much life force do you have? You need to put the push in it, right? How many people are trying to get better and they're taking supplements, but they have what they need to make use of it, right? Or just, if you think about it, if you have X amount of life force and that's your limiting factor, and you have all different body systems or organs that are needing some level of restorative restoration, right? Then they're competing for a limited amount of life force, right? So you don't want that. So when I learned how to figure out what was going on with other people, I mean, it just built my ability to feel energy overall.
And can you describe to me, when you say feeling an energy block within yourself, can you describe what that feels like?
I can try.
I know it's difficult, but I know some people might want to know,
Well, I usually go to it with a series of questions to feel as I don't feel something's right. So either I have a physical pain or I have something emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Today I was actually not in a good mood. I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I might start by saying, was there a life event that caused this? Am I overwhelmed? Is there about a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to figure out what meridian it is, which is the pathway that energy travels, and they go through different organs that they're named for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each one has a specific organ, but
Mm-hmm.
then
Do you
each
do
one
that in
has
sequence, like, starting with?
I do it as though I'm looking at the graphic circle and I just
Yep.
go around the circle as if
Mm-hmm.
as if that's my anatomy. It
Yep.
works,
Yeah.
right? And I will sometimes hold my hands like this and I will feel the energy of that thing that I'm trying to,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I'm focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm reaching a point where some energy is stuck, it'll feel like pressure in my hands. I'll
Right.
feel a surge of emotion. I may feel something heavy at a certain point in my body, or a twinge or pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I move away, it stops, and then I'll go back. So I kind of test it like a scientist,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So play with it a little bit and be like, huh, that's interesting. Um, And I usually have a pretty good idea of what it was.
Mm-hmm. So a
Um,
thought might come to mind once you've felt that energy or the pain in your body. Will often a thought come to mind about what it's linked to, or you're less concerned about that and more about the sensation of what's going on inside?
well, I try to get the most thorough understanding of the energy, because the way I work is, if you want to move energy that's stuck, you have to, it's like connecting with another human being. Do you want to make a difference for each other, or someone feel connected to you or accompanied? The best version of understanding their circumstance with an openness, right? So you're going to it openly, you're taking the information, you're understanding it, and you're holding a safe space for that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's similar with the energy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, what is this about? It was about something, I think, from my past, but something that was going on today that was like, reminded me of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It was like a trigger, something had come up.
yeah, I think so. We all have some things that we aren't happy about that happen that we can't change. And then there's a big reminder of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it'll affect you, a specific emotion, maybe more than one, a specific meridian or organ, and I'll feel it in the body.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I'm working with someone else and I just connect with them, sometimes I'll feel this weird tightening in my throat. And I go, okay, there's a throat problem for that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's something that usually means they're not able to speak their truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll feel like weird pressure in the top of my head, and so my body, because we're energetically entangled, my body is responding to what I'm investigating,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
like clues. I do remember one time working with someone, and I think I was working on the liver, and I kept getting this uncomfortable feeling on my left side where my spleen was. And I go, what's that? What does that mean? I go, is my spleen talking to me about this client? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, let me move over and work on this person's spleen. And then the sensation stopped. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went back and I went back to work on the liver, and it came back. And I said, that is so interesting.
So you can think
Right?
it's one thing, but then it's actually something else.
And my body is telling me that I have it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Interesting. So this really requires to be able to feel into other people. First, you really have to be able to feel into yourself. You have to have that body awareness. Would you agree with that?
I do think so. And the other thing is, if you ever have hopes to work with other people, you have to be able to clean up your energy afterwards, because you
Yes.
will tangle with them.
Mm.
You will
Mm-hmm.
help them, but then you have to do something with that energy. And
Yeah.
what is the answer to that?
Thank you, Shen.
Qigong.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one thing that's really stuck with me recently with what Keith said is that when someone's dumping on you, like saying you're having an argument with someone and they're just going at you, don't be afraid to take that energy in, because you know how so many of the energy workers are like, put a white fluffy cloud around you, protect your energy, and he says it's impossible to do that because you're already entangled, because you're already emotionally reacting. So then just take in the energy and just know that you can transmute that negative energy to positive energy through the Pangu Shen Gong. And
Right. We don't need to be afraid. Oh, you know what I'd like to talk about? Because I
yeah.
think this is an appropriate time.
Mm-hmm.
Shen Gong, and I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Shen Gong,
Mm-hmm.
Qigong.
Yes, the difference.
So,
Let's clarify that.
so my understanding is that a Shen Gong is also a Qigong.
Mm-hmm.
There are many forms of Qigong. They have different purposes. Sometimes you're more physically strong or more intelligent. For certain, they're designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Pangu, Shen Gong, which is also a Qigong, is for life force, for healing and resilience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A Shen Gong, a Qigong is you're pulling in energy for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm.
The Shen Gong means you're pulling that energy, but then you're doing some kind of you're harmonizing. You're taking the parts that you need, and it's cleaning out and helping to release the parts that aren't serving you, that you had in you already before you were doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it's coming in. I think um, it's transforming your own energy, not just building and taking in energy.
Yeah.
So
So that's along the same lines of transforming negative to positive. Is that what you're relating
right, or
to?
the stuff that's old from trauma,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
um, old pockets of emotion that you didn't know you had.
Mm.
There have been times, I remember one time walking down the street doing Qigong. Sometimes I really enjoy doing that, or walking in nature and doing it. And this little, like, I just felt like, for like almost like a moment, like sadness, and then it was gone. And it was like it built, and then disappeared. And I go, I don't know what that was, but I don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's really what it is if you learn the non-moving form, sometimes out of nowhere you feel something rise up out of like your insides,
Mm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, in the way of emotion, but even you feel it physically releasing from you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? With like there's a force to it.
Yeah.
So it's a
What?
beautiful thing. If you practice it, you get.
Yeah. Definitely. What do you feel between the moving form and the non-moving form? The difference in sensations that you get. What's your experience with that?
Okay, that's interesting. Well, okay, you're so concentrating on, okay, they're very easy movements, first of all, but you're still concentrating on them because you're doing a certain thing, right? You're trying to do it correctly. It's a little hard to feel to just swim in sensations in the same way, right? You're not just floating in sensations, you're moving. So you're feeling them, but you're also concentrating on other things.
Mm.
So in the moving form, I feel tingling in my hands, like sometimes I feel like, well, so some of the a lot of the movement is doing this. So you feel swirling energy, heat, tingling, and pressure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't usually feel it in the rest of my body, but that might just be because of the concentration, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing the non-moving form, I feel sensations in every part of my body. It's like, I think of it like an internal massage, right down to
Mm-hmm.
every toe.
Mm-hmm.
And also your mind kind of checks out. Like you kind of go, you probably dozed off and came back, but you're in a trance for sure. You're not thinking about anything. You do still have some things that you have to do, but it all takes place in your mind. Right. So maybe that's the other reason that your mind isn't thinking, because you are busy doing something in your head, right? But you feel kind of like a rag doll, right? I don't do it standing. I suppose some people might. I usually lay down because I just love that. Those sensations.
I was the first time that I really got the non-moving form. I could not believe what I was experiencing. I thought, how on earth can visualizing the sun in one eye and the moon in the other eye have such a profound effect on my body, and feeling vibrations through my whole body? And even just even before I've even started, when you start going through the password in your mind, before you can start to feel the vibrations rising up. I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. And I think to really give the non-moving form a fair go, you do have to be in a quiet place. Like, you know how some people talk, oh yeah, I do the non-moving form when I'm walking around, and that's all good too, but it's a different experience when you're just in a room, no music, just you, no distraction, and to really surrender to it. So amazing. But yeah, so that I feel in one way that the non-moving form works on a deeper level. They're both different and they both have different things, but yeah.
So here's the way I think of it, and I don't know if this is true, to be honest. So, but I'll still share it. I think of the moving form as the soup base. So I don't think you can get a benefit of the non-moving form if you don't have enough chi. Or life force. So you bring in the life force, and it's just that extra layer of cleaning you out of bad energy, energy that isn't serving you, energy that's, creating, stuck, old, or even current emotion, stuckness, right? That's another way to look at it, is if you have energy flowing at all times, you're not stuck in your physical tissues, in your emotions, in your thinking. And you can make choices on what's actually going on in front of you, because you're not that, all of that old stuff isn't, playing a role in your perception of what's happening, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
definitely. What's some experiences you've had with clients, especially the ones that have learned, do you expect your clients to do to learn the Pangu Shen Gong? Because I know Keith doesn't work with anyone who doesn't do Pangu Shen Gong anymore. What's your approach?
I always mention it. I always try to persuade and try to teach them and get them to do it. Trying to think who I'm really working with that isn't doing it. I don't feel like I wouldn't work with someone who isn't doing it. There are some people that actually are paying me to send them life force energy. I want people to understand that there's important to protect your life force, to not squander it. But I would say the majority of my clients are practicing it. But I don't have a hard rule about it. But what is funny is when you know certain people and you see them socially, they'll see you and they'll be like, I haven't been practicing. I go, I'm not here to check up on you.
Yeah. Because your life is your own, and you can make your choices.
We can talk about other things in life, right?
Yeah.
But
they're obviously thinking about you.
One woman attended class 4 times.
Say again.
Not fitting in, and I just say, however, how can I support you to make this happen? It is hard. I tell people it's hard to create a new habit when you're the only one you know who does it. So join a group. And so I compiled all these different online groups of different people, like you're in Australia and I'm in the United States, right? And we can join each other's group. It's amazing. Once we had 7 continents, maybe 5 continents, people from 5 continents in 1 hour doing Qigong together.
Yeah, that's wild. I love that. And I think, and I really did feel the difference, because the big turning point for me to wanting to become an instructor was when we're in the middle of our lockdown 2021, and in winter there's a 9 p.m. that's Linda's time. So that was good. That was perfect for me at that time. And I noticed the difference with practicing in a group compared to practicing on my own. And it really did make a difference practicing in a group. Like especially if I stayed for the whole hour, like the next day, there was this sort of emotional lightness that wasn't there if I had only been practicing on my own. So yeah, the group practice is really invaluable, I think. So yeah, very appreciative.
And I mean, the other thing is for the ones where they are showing up daily and hosting. So it's so much easier for you to not forget to do your right.
Yes. Yeah.
You have opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And a responsibility, because you think, well, people are going to show up, so I better show up. I better like get my act together. And
right.
Yeah. In terms of like health challenges that you've come through, like what was your status before you started practicing Pangu Qigong and now? Like, what are the main benefits that you've experienced?
So, a lot of people go to Pangu Qigong and many other holistic healing modalities because they do have a health problem themselves. I feel like I definitely wasn't, by the time I found energy, I felt like I was past a lot of my other health issues that I had in the past. So I can't say that it made this miraculous change for me, but I can tell you some subtle changes that they're subtle, but they're still amazing. One of the ways that the Pangu Qigong works is that it creates a calm and an open-heartedness. And what I found is I had this amazing clarity and wisdom and ability to connect with others, such that and clients, but even in my personal life, it's a little harder in your personal life. You can always remember to use, like you were talking about when you can take in someone's energy, right? You can be present with them. But what I found is I had the right words for the right person. I had a better read on someone as to what is the best way to explain something to them and how much they wanted to hear. It's always nice when especially if you're in a teaching mode or you're working with a client, it's really nice to actually be able to meet someone where they are. But the problem is, how do you know where, it's hard to know. I just felt like I had these amazing connections when I was trying to help someone. And then I became a person that I was able to make decisions. Like I would know, this is exactly what I need to be doing right now. Whereas if you'd known me prior, no, I'd be asking people, second guessing myself.
That's a clarity, really, isn't it?
It's just even over anything, just sorting out the facts and going, no, because this is a time sensitive thing. And this has to happen, and then these other people would need to be involved, but this part that I don't need to involve the other people, and that has to happen first. Like even that, like the practical things, but even other things about how to get from here to there if I had a goal, right? in a health or working with a client. It's great when you don't waste all that. It's probably an energy robber to like go back and question yourself and wish you hadn't done it a certain way or not know, or it's just, it erodes your confidence and it wastes your time.
Yeah.
So that was actually beautiful. And just feeling balanced myself, right? So working with others, I have to say that there are people that would ask me what I'm doing because I always seem calm. And one of the people that asked me that, I had already taught it to her, but she wasn't using it. I said, you know what I'm doing.
And in her mind, she's probably thinking, yeah, but that's too simple. There's got to be more to it. But it really is this simple. Like, but it's
well,
about.
and so the thing is one of the things that we're told is when we practice it is you're going to get more out of it if you can go into that heart-centered space, right? You can literally drop your thinking mind into your chest. And quite frankly, like for a person who can really do that and stay in that place in their body, that is the calmest place. That is the ticket, right?
Yeah, because this is too busy, or is this quiet? Yeah.
You can't really listen to this. Well, you can. They're like fighting, right?
Yeah.
If you can turn that one off and just.
I think what you just described with how that mental emotional change, for me, it's the word is containment. I felt like I became more contained, as if I'm not pulled in all these directions and doubting and I obviously I still have my days, but I know that I've got this tool that I can fix that if I'm getting too up in my head. And but yeah, so that's how it was mostly affected me as well, that mental inner change of just quietness.
And so that makes me think about like being present, right, as opposed to your mind. And what I noticed I would do with the family that lives in my house and be like, I'll get a question, or can I show you this? And go, well, actually, I'm doing this right now. Because I had the awareness that I didn't want to multitask, and I didn't want to. I was choosing to do what I'm doing, and then could, as opposed to trying to do everything at once, right?
Yeah, well, we're told the brain can only do one thing at a time anyway, and yet we've got this illusion of multitasking, and that's going to chew through so much energy. So it makes sense to just one thing at a time. You'll be most effective that way. But yeah, tell me about your practice. Like, so how do you work? What's a typical week? And like, as in your energy healing practice, or what would you first call yourself?
Okay, so when someone knows nothing about Chinese medicine, I just say I'm an energy medicine practitioner. And they're already a little confused by that. But if someone wants to know more or does understand, then I say I am a medical Qigong practitioner. And then I have two elevator speeches. One is what is medical Qigong, and then what is the energy field. So the medical Qigong, the way I explain the medical Qigong is I have learned a simple but profound exercise, which is of an ancient Chinese exercise called Qigong, and there are many forms, so they're not all the same. And with that, I build life force energy, and first within myself, but then with that, I can connect deeply into my own energy and see what needs to be restored in the way of flow for the best version of my physical, emotional, mental health or wellness. And then I can also connect with others and feel into theirs and do the same for them. And so the other thing that I also explain to people is they're not separate. Like there's one energy field and all the energies affects everything. So every cell affects every cell, every organ. And then the emotion is definitely not a causative relationship with physical or vice versa. It's just all in there. And most of the things that we all as human beings wrestle with, or not just human beings, but is a little bit emotional, a little bit mental, and a little bit physical. Maybe different amounts of each for an issue. But the beautiful thing about this kind of healing or this kind of work is when we go in and we move any of it, we get benefits in all those areas. You don't have to go to different specialists for different, you know, if it's mental versus something physical. And so in a typical week, I have one-on-one clients. I work through Zoom mostly, or the phone. And they'll fill out an intake form, so I'll have an understanding of what their concerns are. So then when I would start working with them, I would I might start in different places for different reasons, maybe based on their intake form, but maybe based on just something I'm feeling. Like kind of that I said before is if I were to go and just, you know, first I just tap into their energy, and sometimes their energy, even when I'll be sending them energy first to bring up their life force, right? It's kind of like the clogged drain. You put movement into it first to get clear it out. I think that's a good analogy. Sometimes I just tap in, I feel all this energy coming at me, like it's so under pressure. It's stuff that might have been there for like 20 or 30 years, right? And when people have been chronically stressed, I can feel all this energy coming at me in a good way, because that's what I'm here for, right? Like I'm not afraid of it. I know what to do when I'm done with my session. So I'll just take that without really labeling it or knowing where it's coming from. And it's usually just like that, you know, trying to create a calm. Then I might feel into different fields: electric, emotional, mental, the field of perception, the childhood, what the, you know, the unconscious mind and belief system is in there, and the physical. And then, or I might go head, chest, abdomen. I may go to the meridians, or I might just, depending on what I know. I can give you one example of someone, but I'll just feel in their energy field. So thinking of our energy field, it's like it has in it all the information of anything that you ever experienced. So I can feel the energy field today and track through their time backwards. And then I can feel at what age something was like a heaviness. I might feel the emotion of what was going on for that person. I know there are other practitioners who can get like crazy amount of detail out of what's happened. I don't have that ability. So I might just start there because it's so much emotion. And like, for example, if I feel it's the lung meridian and it's like that's the thing that matches what their intake and their story, it makes sense. And there's an emotion there, and I go, where did it start? And then I have to go to the root. I can't just clear it now if the root is there, right? So that's the beautiful thing about that. It's so effective for removing the root of trauma. You're not removing the memory or the experience, because that's part of what made a person who they are. But the part where it's replaying all the time is
the charge.
It's locked into the energy.
And
sometimes I'll start working in the brain and the limbic system for the same reason and hit the amygdala, medulla oblongata, hippocampus, you know, the whole brainstem. So it depends on the person. So should I share one really interesting story?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So this was actually a group session online. And this person shared, I always ask what's going on for them or what they need me to work on. And this person said she had a lot of fear. And I said, well, is it something recent? And she's like, no, all my life. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I'm feeling, and I go, all the way back to birth. So sometimes it's before birth.
Mm-hmm.
So think of the baby that's gestating inside a mom that's had trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's an energy that baby is developing in.
Yeah.
And so I just worked on it, and it's a group. I'm not going to have a private conversation with her about this obviously traumatic thing that in her history, right? But then the next day she said she slept better than ever. She doesn't have any fear, but there was a surge of anger. And I was like, well, it is probably true that when we move the energy of one emotion, it's kind of holding hands with another.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we bury all this emotion and some of them bubble up, but there's others in there that will come up too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she had a day where she was feeling anger. But then what she told me is when she was conceived, it was 6 months after her grandmother had committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
So her mother's mother, like her mother was in a terrible state of grief
Mm-hmm.
through her entire pregnancy.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Gosh.
So that baby is gonna learn to be fearful, or not
Mm-hmm.
had learned to be fearful because
Mm-hmm.
she was developing it in there's even chemicals that have to do with different emotions, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, everything, like just bathing in the waters, which the water
yeah,
is carrying information and energy, and
yeah, the energy and the biochemistry. But and then we started working together, and she's amazing now. Like when we meet and she talks about something she's going through, I go, you're talking about something that just happened now. This
yeah,
is a normal. This isn't called normal.
yeah, yeah.
Something's going on in your family, and you're trying to work it out. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard to the person with old trauma. It's so hard to sort out how to handle this when you have all this other background stuff, right? Now you just have this one problem,
Yeah, yeah.
right? That you can really focus on
Mm.
and think clearly on what strategies you can use.
Because the trauma of the past is not continually pulling on your life force energy. It's taking energy away from you, even when you're not consciously aware of what it
Absolutely. And
was.
it's just distorting what's happening in front of you. Like this person that you're in this conversation with didn't do it.
Mm.
It's an old thing, right? So you
Mm.
always have to, even those people that have done a lot of work on these things, it's still uh, um, robbing your energy because you kind of have to be like, oh, I'm having a reaction. Oh, but it's not about that. Okay,
Yeah,
this is really not what's going on here. Like even if you have to have that little sorting,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What if you just didn't have a memory of it and you were just present with that
Mm-hmm.
situation in front of you? So that was a great example of it because that's a terrible way to start your life, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Destiny and karma comes to mind. I want to, talk about what do you believe we're doing here? Like we're incarnating, and there's so many theories, obviously. Like, are we in a recycling kind of soul trap, or do we just keep coming back until we learn the lessons, or what's your view on all of that?
So it's not something that I'm trained in or brought up with, right? I'm sure at one point I said, no, I don't think so. But here's the thing. I've met a lot of people who do energy work. Some that I have a lot of respect for. They're very intelligent. They're changing people's lives, and they work in that realm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot I don't know. So I approach anything that seems a little far out very open-mindedly,
Mm-hmm.
and I just learn,
Yeah.
So I don't really have my own theories on it.
It sounds like to me you're more like, let's deal with the moment right here, right now, like this lifetime, because maybe if you can collapse a few waveforms in this lifetime, then that might have an impact on the past, and it might have an impact on the future anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know how to work on past lives of a person. I haven't done that.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked on their ancestors stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I have worked on the energy of something that's been passed down the family.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you'll be like, wow, everyone had a stomach meridian issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the old, is it nature or nurture? But
yeah,
doesn't matter to me why.
And do you
But if I
think if you address that stomach issue meridian from an ancestral point of view, do you think that collapses that whole dysfunction throughout the
shockingly,
line?
yes. Even though real lives, and some that aren't alive anymore, have lived with circumstances that have affected and added to that, it's all about the energetic root. And all right, I feel like if I have distorted energy in my stomach meridian, and that's kind of a thing that most days, right? And then I have a child, stomach meridian and the energy, the emotion that's related to stuck energy in the stomach or the spleen, I call it the who cares, why bother emotion. It's the giving up, it's hopeless. Just not motivated. There's just no point, right? So if you're raised by someone with that, not only is your energy with their energy all the time, and so there's going to be an effect on your energy, but also how they are with you.
Yeah.
Right? So they're both can be extremely strong influences. But the interesting thing is, if I go back to like great grandma and I go, this is that person, what they lived through, and we move that energy. I can't really actually explain it very well, but except that I could just say that these people throughout time, like the person who's alive, who's my client, is energetically linked to that, and that's the root. Might be a root in their timeline, but it might be a root in someone else's timeline. So it is unusual that I do that, because I usually just stick to who's in front of me.
Yeah.
But I can also feel the energy in their relationships with people from their past. And we can work on that and try to get an understanding of what that was about.
Very interesting. Is there anything else that you want to share? I want to be respectful of your time, but like, if there was someone that was thinking about trying Pangu Shen Gong, like learning it, but we're a little bit skeptical, what would you say?
Well, I actually think if they're extremely skeptical, then they're probably not going to do it. Right? So I do think I think that people, when they need the help, will be more open.
Yeah, that makes
sense. They have to be ready for it. And I don't know. I think it's just like I listen to Keith. If I do a good enough job explaining, if I'm working with someone and I can move energy for them and they feel it, they're going to trust me, because I did something they've never experienced before. Yeah. Right. I go, and you need to learn this. So I keep trying if they don't, but I'll still work with them. Yeah. But I would like to talk a little bit about entanglement. Because we had talked the other day about a story.
Yes.
That I shared.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh yeah. Yes. So the thing is, with the work we do when we're working on other people's energy, is we are, like I talked a little bit about that, where I might feel it in my body, directing me to what's going on with them, but you're entangling, right? So our energy is mingling as if it's for a short while, a conjoined energy field, right? So I don't always tell every student this when I teach them, but I think it's always good to know, if you have loved ones and friends and people you care about, that you can include other people in your 22-minute Qigong form by setting the intention that you would like them to receive energy as well, and they will. And they may not be able to test it, but if someone said to me, I just sent energy to like Uncle Joe, I'd be like, Uncle Joe, and now Uncle Joe, I go, yep, Uncle Joe has more energy right now. Because we probably don't think Uncle Joe had another method, right? So my brother was starting chemo. And so I was sending him energy or including him in my Qigong. Normally, when I'm done with whatever amount of Qigong I'm doing, I don't really think about that I'm still connected to someone. It's not been an issue. I think it was like that day and another whole day later. Like I couldn't read emails. I couldn't answer an email. I was like trying to sit down and answer an email. I couldn't even read it. And I was sleeping like throughout the day. So at first I thought I was coming down with something, but then I was like, all right, well, I'll just sleep more. And then I'm like, all right, well, if I'm coming down with something, let me feel what I can do to help myself by going through what's going on in my own energy. And, I did a little bit of energy work, but then it was weird because I'm like, I don't understand what I could be coming down with because I had no respiratory symptoms, no digestive GI issues. I had a perfectly good appetite. I would get up, eat, and go back to sleep, but then I'd sleep through the night also. So 2 days of this. And then when I was feeling into my energy, I was like feeling liver and kidney. And sometimes when I feel stuck energy, well, we didn't talk about this, but like I'll feel the energy and it'll be like a lot of pressure in my hand. So I know it's like energy under pressure. It's not supposed to be like that, right? But this was like a crazy amount of stuck energy in my kidneys and my liver. And I go, well, those are my detox organs. So it's what, like, have I been poisoned? Or like some kind of toxic exposure. And that's when I got a text from my brother saying, I had asked him how he's feeling, and he goes, pretty good, actually. And I was like, it's him. I'm still attached to that guy. I've just taken on his chemo symptoms for 2 days. I wasn't sick or anything. It's not like I was throwing up. It wasn't an issue, right?
Yeah.
But he felt great. And I got to tell you, he had chemo, I think, for 1.5 years. He's lost a lot of weight, but he never missed a day of work.
It's incredible. I mean, gosh.
I mean, overall, he's feeling pretty good. I think that was amazing. And I was happy to do that for him, but I was surprised.
Yeah. So when you realized that you were taking on his symptoms, what did you do the next time you worked on him?
Well, first of all, right then and there, I said, now I'm just going to you're not attached to me anymore. You're not attached to me anymore. Anyone else? Like whenever, now I try to remember when I do share energy with people, like
cut the cords.
And then I imagine putting their energy in a box and putting a lid on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got to tell you, sometimes when I do that, I feel like this weird, sensations.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting more energy back because I've taken the vacuum cleaner off of me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's almost like. I know this sounds really weird and hard to picture, but it's the best I can do to explain what it's like to know energy that way.
Yeah. To people who understand energy, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. And I guess
have you had experience like that?
Yeah, not to that degree. But then again, I haven't worked on someone who's had chemo. But I have worked on a few people that had COVID. And I do remember specifically after working on them, from a distance, half the time they didn't even know I was working on them. But yeah, the sensations in the throat, slight pains in the chest. I'm just like, what is this? I didn't understand really. Because, we all, for a while until we started disbelieving the whole narrative, there's this paranoia about this virus, and so this panic, like, oh my God, am I coming down with it now? But then I realized as I got more into it, it's just, I'm taking on the same symptoms, and I had to do what you do. It's just like, okay, it's time. You've done the work and now it's time to cut. And
And Liz, so here's the thing. I remember Keith talking about working on someone on the West Coast. And then the next day you have their symptoms. So he got the flu from working on someone with the flu. We believe the immune system works a certain way based on what science has taught us, right? But you and I work in energy, but don't we all?
Yes.
So if I'm sitting next to someone who never sneezed, and especially if we're already very connected, right? So our energy is dancing together often, right? So, you know, we're just, if there's an energetic aspect of their illness, I could take that on.
Yes.
So without there being a microbe entering my body. Right?
Yeah. It's a more complete way to describe immunity, because what these scientists can't describe is like why when a group of people, you know, all these people come down with the same thing, but there's one or two people that were in the room, but they didn't come down with it. And there's no sort of logical explanation for that. But when you think of it in terms of energetic immunity, maybe those two people just had more life force. You know, they had that buffer to fend off that. They didn't entangle to that dysfunction. So to me, that makes a lot more sense with immunity.
It's funny. It's like when you think of asymptomatic, or a person that isn't showing the symptoms, maybe they don't have it, or they're asymptomatic. Maybe they're healthier. That's basically what we're saying, right?
Yeah.
So they're, you know, that's
a completely different way of looking at, especially the last few years. But yeah, awesome. Yeah. So anything else that you want to share before we sign off? Where can people find you, first of all? Like, do you have a website or something?
I do, and I'm actually rewriting it, which is funny because two people last week said they really liked it. It's DonnaBeckerBetterHealth.com.
Great. And anything else you want to share before we finish it?
No, just I love what I do, and it changes people's lives, and it's so humbling and gratifying that you can help someone to just have access to more control over what the rest of their life is going to look like.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah. Well, I'll put that website link in the description when this video goes live, and I'll send you the draft copy before I do anything, just to make sure you're happy with it. And yeah, thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully lots of people will get benefit.